Good morning, good evening, good night to everyone watching us around the world. I'm Vincenzo Berghella again, another session of AJOGM FM live. And again, Dr. Kavita Narang is with us today. Good morning, Kavita. How are you?
Good morning, Dr. Brigitte. I'm doing fantastic. Always look forward to these sessions with you, and thank you so much for having me back here again. This is great.
No, this is great. This is great. How do you want to start the day? How should we go about it today? This is our fourth time.
Yep, this is Happiness 4.0, our journey to happiness. So I think I want to start off by first of all thanking all our listeners who are here with us right now for, joining us and investing your own time in, talking about happiness or hearing about our conversations on happiness to help you navigate life better as well. And I think just like we were talking earlier, we both kind of enjoy traditions, and I think a tradition for this platform has been to start with some gratitude. So, would you like to maybe start off by sharing some gratitude, Dr. Bergilla, and then I can do the same too? And I invite our listeners to also think about one thing you're grateful for right now and write it on a piece of paper or share it with a friend or a family near you.
I think what I'm most grateful for are these people. Where are they? Right here. My family. All four kids are doing well. Federica's doing well. My wife and she's actually coming to SMFM. This year. This is the Anti-Age MFM, and we're all maternal fetal medicine specialists. It's actually going to be my 30th SMFM in a row. I began fellowship in '94, so '95 was my first one, and I haven't missed one. And I thank my colleagues here at Jefferson for letting me go every year, at least for part of it. And I'm gonna have a party. Actually, I'm gonna have a big birthday coming up next Tuesday, and so a few friends are coming over. There at the Gaylord, and so I'm very thankful for staying healthy, staying family happy, and professionally full of great social relationships. What about you?
No, that's wonderful. You kind of covered the whole circle of real life that I like to talk about. You're like, everything is perfect. I love hearing that. Thank you. No, I agree. I'm grateful for family, for my health, for, being able to be present and being here with you today. Yeah, especially for SMFM. I'm glad that it's actually in the DC, Maryland area this year where I live. So it's really close to home for me. So I'm just excited to see friends. And, I think that's my favorite thing about SMFM is, it that to be able to see people in person again, to hug your friends, to meet them. Like I miss that and I look forward to that a lot. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree.
All
On that
right.
note,
Yeah, we are gonna. So today, just to a quick recap, we've had a few sessions already. This is our fourth one, and on the previous videos and sessions, we have touched on the top first 3 points that are the evidence-based approach to happiness from Dr. Brigila's wonderful book. And today, we're hoping to talk about how working hard and creating recognition in the work that you do, meaningful work that you do, how that also promotes your happiness, as well as discussing we'll touch a little bit on about the concept of nature versus nurture that forms the foundation of happiness. So I think we can jump right in. We'll start with working hard.
yeah, and again, I emphasize what you just said. What we're talking about is not just our opinion. In fact, not our opinion
Mhm.
at all. It's all based on randomized trial, on lots of
Mhm.
evidence, on the science. And really, when you look at things, the number, here, key, another key to happiness is once you find something you like to do, and we talked about that at length, then you go all in and you work at it. And hopefully, it's something related to your strengths, to something you always wanted to do. Um, if you look at successful people, none of the people you just meet works just a little, or the ones who have done well. For example, there is a story, of the Beatles. The Beatles became the Beatles because when they were teenagers, they actually moved to Germany and they played like 24 hours a day. They played day and night in this, unknown little bars, and by just that's all they were doing, playing and playing and playing. And obviously, I feel like tennis and I don't know, Federer, or now our wonderful Italian Sinner, those people, since they were young, they were playing, they worked hard, they got the best coaches. The Sinner, for example, again, who is now my new idol, 22-year-old, won the Australian Open. He says he loves playing tennis. He plays for fun, but he wants to be very good at it, because if you master something and you're good at it, then you get a lot back. And I could um, talk about Einstein, or other people that we all admire. They really went all in and
Mhm.
worked at what they wanted to do. So I think if you want to achieve certain things, it's not really the amount of hours. I put here, each of us works more than 60 hours a week. A lot of the people who are going to have oral at SMFM, for example, or you may admire for whatever book or article they wrote, they worked hard. And there's a 10,000 hours rule. Malcolm Gladwell, if you read the beautiful book Outliers, he talks not only about the Beatles, but all kinds of other people who really, worked hard at it. And even, not that again, that's the ultimate thing, but the billionaires of the world, the Microsoft founders or whatever, that's all they were doing. They wanted to, make the best computer in the world, and help people that way. And they worked really hard at it. So um,
Mhm.
it's I think if you want to get somewhere. And I can tell you, this is a quick story, since again, related to maternal fetal medicine or obstetrics. This is Danya McKean. She's coming to us sometime. She's a former fellow. I met her when she was, this young girl, as you can see here. And, the story is that we thought at that point, is a few years ago, the staples where most people were closing the cesarean section scar with staples. And we were convinced, both her, where she came from, and me at Jefferson, that that was the best way. But sutures were coming around, and why don't we do a randomized studies? And she randomized 746 patients during COVID.
Wow.
In 3 years, she randomized 746 patients, mostly at Jefferson, some at Yale. Um, but there was a humongous effort. And I can tell you, to do that, you need to work really, really hard. And she did. But eventually, she changed the world. She published a randomized study, then she published the meta-analysis, then she published the Cochrane. And now, you go to the Philippines or you go to Argentina, most people close the C-section scar with sutures. She changed the world completely. Um, but again, if people think, oh, she's lucky, or, what a break, whatever. No, this is a good subject that she was very passionate about. The technique of how to do a C-section, something she worked really hard at,
Mhm.
and she got the reward. So I think it's a good, just one of dozens and dozens now of stories after a 30 plus years career for me, of mentees I saw, and colleagues who worked hard at something and got to where they wanted to, because they mastered the subject.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that you shared all that, Dr. Bergler. And you're right, some people might look at that and say it's luck, but I'm sure people have also heard this common phrase where luck is when hard work meets opportunity. It just doesn't come around. You work hard, and then when the right opportunity comes along, that's when things blossom into this beautiful success, and you make the impact that you've always wanted to create, right? And I think even in your book, you kind of write about this idea of working hard. You said something like finding something that you love to something you love to play, and getting paid for it, or somehow, like
Yeah,
working
yeah.
right. What exactly, what was the word you used? I love how
No,
you
the idea is, like I say it all the time, I will work for free. I come, like I came this morning super happy we're going to do this. I have other fun stuff, during the day, even seeing patients. You want to do something that really inspires you. And if you do that, I remember my father told me that all the time, whatever you do, just love it, and,
Mhm.
do it because you want to do it, because it's a calling. We talked about that. A lot. And I think we're lucky in our profession to do something that changes people's lives and improves them, and that we can get so much back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I put this slide here, know your why, because I think this again goes back to the roots. For you to be able to pour your heart and soul and your time and sweat into doing something, into working hard, you have to know why you're doing it. It has to come from a true and authentic place. And I came across this phrase recently in a book. It says that if your why is powerful, the how will be easy. So even though you're working hard, it does not weigh you down. You working hard with joy, it actually uplifts you because it's aligning with your strengths, it's aligning with what you like to do. And you talk about this, and I think this journey starts since childhood. And I know we're going to be talking about nature and nurture later, but play. Let children play, let children experience everything, so they figure out from a young age what they like, what is their why.
A quick comment on what you just said is maybe we should change the world, the word work, because
Play has.
at the end of the day, work is a negative connotation.
Mhm.
And it probably should, if you're doing something that you don't like to do, it is
Right.
work, and you don't like it. We should call it something. And again, I like the word calling. It's a calling.
Yep.
Um, it should be fun. It should. Like I am at an age that you think, in 5 years, 10 years, at some point, you retire. But some of the stuff I do now for work, and we'll talk about it later on, the books or the editing at the journals and up to date, I never want to stop doing that, because my wife knows that relaxes me. That
Uh,
gives me a reason to go on and be happy, and then I can be happy with her and my kids and everything. So maybe that's one thing you guys, who are young, can work on, changing that world, the word work into something else.
yeah, no, absolutely. I think, play might be a nice word too. Play, drive, calling,
Yeah.
and I think everybody can come up with your own word, create your own mantra that makes you feel like, yes, I want to do this. And, when talking about work hard, people, when hearing this, especially if you're in a phase where you're like, you're burnt out or you're tired and you're like, what do you mean? Why are you both telling me that working harder is going to make me happier? And that's why I wanted to bring this slide up here and say that it's not always about working harder, it's also about working smart. And I think it's, again, it all comes down to the lens you're choosing to look at the work you're doing. Sometimes people think that for work hard to equal happiness, you have to be performing at this level all the time. You have to be making progress. And if there's no progress, then your hard work is useless. Your hard work is good for nothing. And you kind of talk yourself out and you're like, oh, why am I even bothering working this hard? It's not getting me that promotion I want. It's not getting me that paper published. And I think these are moments that you got to recognize we're all humans. Our society, especially with social media right now, everyone only publishes the final product. But I really want to see people publish more of that progress that they're making too, because the progress is not linear, and that's actually where the hard work goes into. And if you look at everyone's progress, it's kind of, it's like a V-fib waveform, I guess, or something terrible. And sometimes it's just all sorts of shapes. But then when you look at it, take a step back and you look at it from afar, and you're like, wow, there has always been progress. And so be kind to yourself on days that you're like, yeah, I'm working hard, but I'm not where I want to be yet. It's okay. As long as you're enjoying what you're doing, just keep doing. And some days you put in more effort, some days you put in less effort, and that's okay. And I think this is another important thing I just want to bring up is, your self-talk is important. What we say to ourselves, we internalize very easily without realizing, as humans, right? Like, it's easy when you're not seeing progress to say, well, I'm not good enough. It's for that I'm never going to be able to publish like hundreds and thousands of meta-analysis like Dr. Bergela does, or so when you say things like that, you've already taken away your opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
So I think always my rule is, like, talk to yourself like you would talk to a little child. Like, how would you encourage a child, or how would you encourage your friend who's coming to you with distress? Give that same thing to you. And on days that you don't feel like doing something and you're so tired and you're going into work and you're like, "Ah, I've had a long week," and I'm like, and then it's easy to say, well, I have to go be on call tonight. I have to work today. When you say that, you've made a difficult situation for you even more difficult.
Yeah.
But I found this phrase that, the you get to versus you have to. Just that small shift in these two sentences, just one word changed from have to get. So instead of thinking about like, oh, I have to be on call today, even if you just tell yourself, I get to be on call today. Or in those moments, just think back about the first day you wanted this. You chose this. This is what you wanted. You wanted to be a doctor. You wanted to be in the hospital. You wanted to take care of patients. And when you're going those through those hard times, just a shift of one word, shift of perspective, shift of mindset can completely change and transform how you feel and how you were going to show up that day. And it makes a big difference. You have something to say, Dr. Brigetta?
Yeah, you made me realize something huge just now. So we're seven MFMs, and the most difficult thing we have here is scans. We read quite a few 55 scans or so a day.
Mm-hmm.
A fellow and an attending. Those are the day that I say you get to myself, and I do it. I never realized this until you said
Mm,
this a few seconds ago. Because you could say, look, I have so much to do today, just, we see every patient, we talk with everyone, then the billing, then the NSTs, then, they have questions, and then you're teaching as well. It's a lot. But that's what I wanted to do. That's, when I was a teenager, that's what I wanted to do. That was my dream. I'm living my dream. And when I say I live in my dream, I don't, many people saying sarcastically, which I hate. Um, so my out of six attendings that day, don't have the wonderful opportunity to be busy, to be teaching, and to be, hopefully improving lives and, saving babies, etc. And I that's what gets me going. I could be saying, you know what, I could have a research day, writing a paper, which maybe, in a way more, the things I even like more at work. But I love reading scans. I love a busy day. I love sitting there with the fellow all day and the nurses and the sonographers and so many other people, which, is my social relationship to a work. I think when people say, oh my God, so much work, then they're
yeah,
killing themselves.
exactly. Yep. Yeah, and then I think when you're overwhelmed, right? You just focus on one task at a time. And when I think about physicians, right? Like when we are working hard, there we want to find joy in our work. And I always talk about this. It's not always about doing more. Sometimes it's about letting go of what's holding us back. And so I kind of put this slide here just for people to kind of read through and see, like, have as a physician, or most of us in today's world, actually, I would say it applies to a lot of people, even not doctors, said yes when you wanted to say no. You feel guilty taking time off, right? You feel you're not being productive if you're resting, right? Like, we all can raise our hands for more than half this page, right? And that makes the idea of working hard challenging, because it's like, how much more do you want me to do? I'm tired, I already do so much. But it's because you have these thoughts and these unique personality traits. Physicians, I think we're perfectionism, type A personalities, highly self-critical. It's hard for us to be vulnerable. We feel like it's a failure if we share our weaknesses. And I really want to see that shift. I want physicians to be able to have these conversations more openly. And when people can feel they're not alone in their journey of working hard, that they have bad days, then they suddenly feel like it's okay. It's okay to feel this way. Because right now, when people feel this way, they kind of hold themselves back, because they're like, well, oh, I'm not good enough. But if you realize you're not alone, then suddenly you feel like, oh, okay, they've had those days too, and look at where they are now. It suddenly turns into an inspiring story rather than something that holds you back, right? And I'm sure you've had days like that too, right, Dr. Bergela? I mean, when people look at you, they must be thinking, oh my God, Dr. Bergela, amazing. Look at all these success. It's very admirable. But you've had to figure out how to make yourself get there. You've had to learn so much about yourself too, I'm sure, in the process.
Yeah, yeah. And one thing, we were talking about, kind of putting the time in, but there's a balance, and you're making that point as well. I am appalled at the fact that, there are tens of millions of hours of vacation not taken, by
Yes.
quote, the American worker, by all of us. And I see it even with my colleagues and stuff. You have to take your vacation. You have to take
Mhm.
time off. But that's evidence based. It's not Kavita's or my opinion. There are randomized trials that, people take time off versus don't. The people that take time off eventually get more promotions, do
Mhm.
more what they like to do, they're happier, they make more
Mhm.
money. They took more time off.
Yeah.
They took their vacation, whatever it is, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks.
Mhm.
I can only have, again, a day working hard at work, because then I know that I also have, vacations with my college friends, vacations with my family members, going to SMFM and seeing my social relationship friends. going to the park and pushing the swing for the 2-year-old. Things that make me whole. They make me.
Mm.
I can feel it. There's plenty of evidence that you can only do things 90 minutes at a time. Like, if you're working on something, you do it for 80, 90 minutes. After that, your production goes down. Like, you
Mhm.
downs. And so take a break, go to the coffee thing, get coffee. There's somebody there, talk to them, go out, get lunch with somebody. Too many of us have lunch, at their desk. At 5 o'clock, get out, go home. Don't bring epic work. We talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
So working hard means also working smart,
Mhm.
being concentrated at the time. And there are, tricks like,
Yeah, let's hear what are some of, because you really are very efficient. I'd love for you to be able to share. Like, what
yeah.
are some?
And I don't know if I shared this before, but, one of my favorite stories, one of the things I've liked the most, Kavita, and you'll see it in your life, was taking the kids to activities, right? I really never missed. Never, it's not never a good word, but I would say 95% of soccer matches, chess matches, rowing nationals, whatever, basketball tournaments, whatever they were doing, my two older boys, I was there and taking them and taking them back. But they swam, one of their activities was swimming, or, Italian classes, anything. Swimming 2 hours, they're under the water, they can't really see you, they're concentrated. So I would take my computer and write two papers, doing those 2 hours. The half an hour going there, I was talking to them, half an hour coming back, talking to them, helping them, questions, whatever. Things like that. If you want, I could have also read a magazine, I could have watched something on YouTube, I could have relaxed and daydreamed, whatever, people like to do, and you should do that. For me, I felt more complete because I wanted to do those projects, um, to kind of optimize my time.
Mhm.
If your partner wakes up late, then you wake up early. If you go to sleep late, I think it's always better with your partner actually to wake up at the same time, have coffee and breakfast together, go to
Yeah.
sleep for that half an hour, spend time with them. But sometimes if that's not, and on planes, I mean, on planes, I did, I don't know, 20% of the work I've done, because on planes, usually by yourself, the computer's there, Word document, whatever you have, and you work on that. So I think that's how, some of my own, things to
Mhm.
be efficient, so that when I landed and went home, that's it, no more,
Yeah.
no more work.
That's fantastic. Looks like you've really mastered the art of maximizing your time. And and I think that is so beautiful. And I love that you shared that because you figured out how to incorporate work into your life and life into your work very seamlessly and in a way that does not disrupt the harmony of the other. And I think this is such a beautiful, it's empowering for people to hear this, that you got to figure out what works for you. For everyone that looks different, and take the time to figure out how you can work smart without feeling like it's weighing on your personal life. I think in our society today, a lot of people, we prove our worthiness with our busyness. If you are like, oh, I
Right.
just, and I really want people to be able to talk more about, like, hey, the rest, like, share your vacation and not feel guilty about it. Like, if your friend is on, you're on resident, and it's always busy. When one person is gone, it falls on everybody, to pick up the extra work. But when they come back, instead of, I think our culture currently, a lot of times, it's like, oh, hope you had a nice vacation, we were so busy here. You make the other person feel bad. Don't do that, right? Like, try to make that culture shift where you're like, oh, I'm so glad you had time off, I'm looking forward to mine too. And that way, suddenly everyone feels like, oh, it's good to take time off. Because right now we are so um almost criticized for taking time off, criticized for saying that we're going to take a vacation. Our friends, our colleagues make us feel bad for wanting to take that time off. What do
It's
you think?
amazing how cultural, Kavita,
Yeah,
that is. I make the
yeah.
example again as an Italian American. So here, like what you just said, you meet somebody, say, "Oh, my life, how are you doing?" "Oh, my life is so great. I'm so busy. I'm doing so many
Yeah.
things. This and that. I'm working so hard. It's great." That's what they say. That's Then take the plane, go to Italy. How are you doing? Oh, great. At work, I'm doing nothing. I early go. I have so much vacation. I'm going here and there. My life is great,
Wow.
Uh, and I'm like, wow, this is the same humans, It's like
Yeah.
completely different culture.
Yeah.
I think, obviously, again, personally, and I think the evidence shows that you need to find a better harmony, between those two things.
Mhm.
I think, doing nothing, quote unquote, and sitting on a beach, it's the whole time. It's not a
Yeah.
good goal, but at the same time, you don't want to burn out like we do in this
Mhm.
country, and
Mhm.
take your vacation. Are you crazy? That's certainly not good for you.
Yeah.
So I'll go back if you want to our.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, no, I think, yeah, no, thank you. And I think this is again kind of reiterating kind of what we're already talking about, but I'm going to just highlight a few points here again. So the first part, that I came up with this, I call it the push and pause when you work, because I think that is an important trait of highly successful people is they know when to push and when to pause. It's basically when to work hard and when to give yourself grace and say, no, I need a break. And you were mentioning earlier about that 80-90 minute rule. I've heard of this, 52-17 rule. It's probably the same idea that it says, the human brain, we can truly concentrate on a task with our full concentration. Usually, again, this is all evidence based for about 52 minutes is what they found. And after those
90 is probably old. 52 must be the newest thing.
well, the rate at which we're absorbing knowledge too now compared to before, right? They say that you learn new things in one day more than you would learn in a year back in the day because the resources, everything is on our fingertips, right? There's like
Yeah.
information overload. So our ability to really concentrate is 52 minutes. And after that, if you keep pushing yourself, your productivity has gone down, so it's okay. That's when you say, I'm going to take a break. And they actually recommended that a 17-minute break is actually the most ideal time. And if you're really trying to be efficient, you can even set an alarm on your phone for the 52 minutes and the 17 minutes and go walk around. And the best way to recharge, a lot of our world today is that immediately you pick up your phone, you're like, oh, it's my break time, I'm just going more screen time. Well, it's the opposite, right? Because when we talk about the rest, it's resting your brain, it's resting your neurons, it's resting that constant firing in your brain to allow it to be able to reconcentrate. If you're continuing to use up all the firing in your neurons, it's not going to be able to, even when you go back after that 17 minutes, it's not going to work. So, really, the ideal break is try to be screen free, try to go take a walk. The best thing is, just drink some water, rehydrate, walk in nature, stare. You know how they also say stare out at a distance, like adjust your eye focus because you're focusing in front of you for so long. When you're able to shift your focus to a distance, even that readjusts the wiring in your brain. You're not focusing here, and that actually recharges you much more efficiently than just recharging on a screen. And then you'll notice, try it a couple of times, and then when you come back to it, you'll see a huge difference. And so I think that's kind of, again, push and pause there rather than being constantly in the fight and flight mode, which is what our world has normalized today. I feel it's constantly go, go, go. It's okay to take a break. I think the other thing about, working smart is having a routine organized. Some people say, well, I'm just not an organized person, or I'm a procrastinator. That can change. I think when you tell yourself that, you've normalized that for yourself, but that might be what's holding you back. So maybe work with someone to help create a better routine, better organization, and see if that makes your life easier, and makes you, because it might give you more progress. And when you see more progress, then you're more motivated to work hard. One of my favorites, this is I love checklists. I'm very much a checklist person. So for me, even especially when I have a lot of things to do, I do this is my routine every morning, is a must do list and a should do list. I come to work, the first thing I do, I'll grab a sticky note and I'm going to write, what do I need to get done today? And I notice when I write them down, they get done. When I don't write them down, if I just think about them, it's less likely for me to get them done. And to make it easy on myself, I put it as a must do and should do. So as long as I'm able to go through the must do list, I feel okay, I've done a great job. And if that day I have the extra energy, extra bandwidth to spare, I spill it into the should do list. What all I need to get done. If I can get done today, great. And if not, I'm not hard on myself. you know. And when we're talking about routine real quick, do you have any routine that, for yourself every day? Because I think when we talk about happiness, there's this concept of having a great morning routine sets your tone for the day. I'm just curious, like the life in a day in the life of Dr. Bergella, what's your routine like, that helps you be so successful and do what you do so well?
I think now, I have two young kids, and the routine in the morning. We wake up pretty early. I think it recharges me, to have coffee with my wife, and
Mhm.
either she makes it for me or I make it for her. Nobody ever makes his own coffee or her own coffee. It's always I make two or she makes two.
Oh,
It's
that's
nice,
so
for each
sweet.
other, I think. And again, then usually as we're up, the kids wake up as well. Bring them down, and I bike to work. So
Oh,
apart
wow.
from the family thing, I think it's a tiny exercise because it's only
I
like
love that.
a 7 minute or so bike ride, and but again, it gets a little bit of
Yeah.
hormone and endorphins going, fresh air. Often it's the sun is coming up or about to, so it's orange or red or whatever. Even in Philadelphia, the beautiful sunrises. I think that's and then I couldn't agree more. I have so many colleagues who, I have a to-do list of 10 things and always pick, the easiest thing. And that's really the kiss of death. You need to pick the stuff that are more important to you. So your must do, like you have, shouldn't just be, I need to do my APOG,
Mm.
CME or
Yeah.
MOCs, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that is a must do, but it should be more something that you really, for you probably, take a wellness or give a wellness class, do more of
Mhm.
my, you're a life coach and leadership skills and whatever. Stuff is really more important to you. Put it
Mhm.
all on top and work at it, make sure that maybe even schedule it. I don't do as much as I should, but the same way that you have to schedule, an administrative meeting. I'm on the promotion and tenure committee and all of that, which I don't particularly love. I do it, but then if you have an hour or two of that, you better make sure you have an hour or 52 minutes of whatever you like to do. Right on top and scheduled in your day.
Yeah, no, I love that, and you're right. And prioritize what's important to you, and scheduling is important. And schedule playtime. If you're someone that is struggling with finding that work-life balance or feel like your life is too overwhelmed, schedule your rest time. Put it in your calendar,
Right.
and then you won't feel bad taking it because it kind of balances out with all the other things you need to get done. You know. And then just talking to the rest of the other things we already kind of talked about, identify what's holding you back, letting go of limiting beliefs. And I would say for me, one thing that I've come to realize, and I think it's a very common trait amongst a lot of physicians and people in medicine, that I think one thing that has helped me back a lot was, people pleasing. I think I'm just a people pleaser by nature, and I think you are, the community, my upbringing, culturally, it's all like women are always taught to just say yes, be nice, be kind, and it's all great, and I love being able to help and do things for other people. But at some point you have to realize, like, are you stretching yourself too thin, or are you saying yes to other people at a cost to your own time and your own energy? Because I put here time and energy are it's not infinite, it's actually finite. It would be nice if it was infinite, but time and energy are finite, right? And your energy, you only have so much in a day. People always say, I wish I had more time in a day. Well, if you managed it well, you won't need more time in a day. And I think it comes down to time management is, I think, a whole nother class on its own, right? It's something, a big topic on its own. But one of the important thing is recognize that, are you saying yes to other people's dreams while then you're compromising the yes to your own dream? You're saying no to yourself to do somebody else's yes. And if that's the case, it's okay to say no. It's okay, and it's not gonna hurt you. And I've learned, it's a hard lesson I've had to learn, to say, that it's okay to say no. And I think that's something I'm still working on, to help me continue to work on my goals. And then just last thing about single tasking versus multitasking. We people take a lot of pride in saying, oh, yeah, I'm great at multitasking. But the truth is, science has shown over and over again that your brain functions better when you give your full attention and focus to a single task at a time than rather than focusing on 10 things at one time. So that also might be another thing to help you work smarter rather than just working hard. Yeah. And I love this. I think again, back to where I was talking earlier about, be kind to yourself, watch what you say to yourself, have your own personal mantras that keep you going, like it's like your own toolbox that you can access anytime when you're having a hard day or when you're working hard. If there's something that you're feeling down, what is one thing you needed to hear? These are some of my favorite mantras for myself is, whatever you do, do it with love. Like if I'm going to do something, I tell myself, hey, do it wholeheartedly. And then if I'm going through a hard time, I always tell myself this. I'm like, if you're having these challenges, the universe won't give you challenges if you could not handle it. So right away, I suddenly feel like I empowered myself. I feel like I've just given myself the power that, oh, it wouldn't be given to me if I can't handle it. It means I can do this. Okay. And then right away, I start thinking about solutions rather than being in that victim mindset of like, oh, this always happens to me. I'm the only one that's going through this. Because it's very easy to fall into that victim mindset. And it's so easy to get yourself out of it. So be aware when those thoughts arise and have a mantra to pull you out of it. And this is another thing that I do. Another favorite mantra for myself is like, how you do anything is how you do everything. Is if I'm about to do something that, just something that I feel like I'm lazy, like if I'm not going to wash my dishes tonight, I'm just going to toss it in there. But then I tell myself, how you do anything is how you do everything. Maybe I'm just being a little hard on myself, but then in that moment, I feel like, if I do this, I'm going to be forming this habit, and this is not a habit I want to develop. So don't do it. You have to clean the dishes. And then now that becomes how I will do everything, that I will constantly form a good habit.
A good example of that, again, scientifically proven, is to make your bed in the morning.
Yes,
I don't care if
exactly.
you're Bill Gates or whomever. If you have 10 people working in your house to help, making your bed in the morning is scientifically proven
Mhm.
to do exactly what you said. That's completing a task. Tidying up and finishing something. It looks good and you're happy, and again, it gives you a dopamine shift. And then the next task is the same thing. You're gonna finish what you started. You're gonna get to where you want it. It's so important.
Exactly. And when you come back to it the next time, when you come back to the bed at night, you're like, oh, this is so welcoming, nice, clean bed. Or I
Yeah.
wake up in the morning and I see my sink is nice and clean, and I'm like, oh, this is great. So you're not only creating the dopamine shift in that moment, you are actually anticipating a dopamine shift the next day when you come back to it too, which is, you keep building on it. We touched on this last time already, so just again, your journey, your whole life, it's not linear, it's a waveform. Just ride off the waves, work hard, do what you love. You don't have to be perfect. And this one I think is really important. I think culturally or even our society, we hear people celebrate the big wins all the time. It's always like, oh, this person made it to the top. It was like the most successful, all these big things. But people don't celebrate the little things always. They didn't say, oh, she just passed. If someone's trying to get into med school, she just passed her step one. Okay, great. But then if someone's like graduated, oh, she passed like even the science test, a biology test, like it could be a small thing. People are like, well, don't celebrate that yet. Wait till you actually get into med school. Don't do that. What you're doing in that case is you're procrastinating your happiness until that big thing happens. But if you actually allow yourself to celebrate your little wins, then that is what compounds your happiness. Like even the small things, like today, when I got a chance to do this with you, and this is what, people might say, well, people don't really know who you are yet, Kavita. Who you try to preach about happiness and all this stuff. But my big goal is one day to continue to work on this, to empower physicians to be happier. And if I'm only going to wait till I am able to get to a big crowd for people to know my name and then say I'm going to be happy, then I might never be happy. But if I'm going to be like, I'm so happy I get to do this today, even if one person watches this, if I impacted one person's life, I'm celebrating that, and I think it's just for every small thing you're doing, if you can celebrate your little wins yourself, And I think that's overall adds up very quickly. You have some thoughts, Dr. Bergella?
Another thing that comes to mind now, I didn't think about it before. I often do that, kind of at the end of the day for 35 o'clock, 5:30 when I go home. And, I say, okay, today, those couple of things, went well. And I got this, even could be a relationship, discussions with one of my colleagues about anything, schedule or teaching or a case, and making sure she's less anxious and more relaxed and doing what she likes to do, empowering her. That's a little win for me that I carry on, and we need to celebrate even those little things, because there's a lot of up and downs as you go over in the slides.
Yeah, and I love this slide. And this was from a post from Instagram. I know some random person posted. So, and I just loved it. So, whoever posted this, thank you. I just, borrowing the slide to share here. It says, it's not just about where you end up. I love the picture. It's like who you become along the way. And I think that's, again, focus on the journey, not the destination, right? And I think even when we talked about goals in our last session, focus on the small steps, not the outcome. Right? It's always the journey is always more important.
It's it takes time. I will talk, for example, about the books that I published. I mean, those are almost impossible tasks, if you think
Yeah.
about it. But it's little by little. This week, I'll focus on lupus and I'll read on lupus and I'll find who can help me write a better chapter. And I know there's 83 chapters, and sometimes you never get there, but it's a little bit at a time, and braver, more resilient. That's beautiful. Greater perspective. Little by little, you can get there. And
Yeah.
the last key to happiness, and then we'll talk about other things related to happiness, is eventually getting the pat in the back. And I think that that's so important and so underdone. Um, I am very proud that I've been accused sometimes of praising too much. Sometimes my
So much.
colleagues,
Yeah.
residents, the fellows say, "Oh, you're just praising me because that's what you do." But that's not true.
Mhm.
I truly, Kavita, think that the six other attendings and the six fellows I work with are the best people I could work with. I truly think so. I actually helped pick them, or they picked me, or whatever it worked for geography, many reasons. But then I want to make sure they know how happy I am. It's I get so much love, and especially the recognition. If so, for example, if somebody reads my book in Malawi, that's it really makes a huge difference for me. But there's actually science that say the closer people are to you, the more that um, that compliment to you counts. So
Mm.
my wife, my kids, the fact that my wife says I'm better than her at putting the 2-year-old to sleep, which may or may not be true. I mean, there's no better thing. There's no better compliment. Yes, it's great that somebody's reading in the Philippines, the evidence-based books, but the closer to, they say that actually being recognized in your own hometown, for example, is sometimes more fulfilling than being
Mhm.
a celebrity. Your mentor, if you have a mentor that
Mhm.
says, "Oh my God, I can't believe how good whatever you did is," because you admire that mentor, you admire the man so much, and now she or he is telling you, good job. I mean, that really is great, and at the end, it's yourself. I think in if you got to be a doctor, you work hard, you demand a lot of yourself. It's you who is the most important judge and is the one who needs to stop and say, you know what, you know,
Yeah, exactly.
pat your own self
Yeah.
in the back. And I always have thank you notes. I don't use them as much as I should, but they're right next. I didn't do this for this talk. They're right next to my thing. If an email, an even handwritten um, things to people you really want to be grateful to. They get dopamine and then they smile back at you and they give it back to you. All the endorphins going back and forth. Again, this is a lot of work for me,
Mm.
And every time I say, this is it, last edition. I've been doing this for 20 years, no more. Seriously, I
Uh-huh.
couldn't tell you. The publisher knows, like, when I get the email, we need to write another edition. I'm like, oh my God, are you joking? This is impossible task. Um, but then I say, no, a lot of people help me. And then again, in the Philippines, this is the national book, and in many countries, this is what they use for teaching maternal fetal medicine and obstetrics. And when you have that reach and same thing, I edited over 1,000 articles, I think 1,300 now that I count to Age-O-Gam FM. So much work, but then people are happy that the work gets published, and hopefully a few patients get a better outcome in pregnancy. Uh, Up to date, gets 2 million hits a day. Why did I decided to work with them? Because it's a huge impact everywhere, and of course, cardiologists are reading what we write, and anesthesiologists, and all kinds of doctors and lay people, and it makes a
Mhm.
huge difference. So, and I got to this because of everything else before. The other 5 keys to happiness. Worked on my strength. People know I liked evidence-based medicine. People know I liked randomized trials, and the best thing, they could tell I could write. And then, Up to Date knocks on your door, or an editor knocks on your door, or a scientific journal publisher knocks on your door, because it's kind of known, after so many years I've been doing this is what you like to do, and it gets you there without even knowing. Um, I never applied for any of those jobs. Truly, I didn't. First they called me for a chapter in Up to Date because I was doing cervical length, and then I wrote a second chapter in 9 chapters, and then they say, well, you should edit other chapters, because I like to do it. I didn't even know they were going to pay me, and so it was kind of right along my calling of things to do, and I think. Um, then you get into this beautiful, wonderful circle of, you're working on your strength, you're doing what you like to do, people notice, they give you more, and then you get recognized, which may sound you know, self, you know, but you should go once in a while. You should get up and say, you know what, I'm a life coach. You know what, I'm an MFM fellow. You know what, I'm an MFM attending. I got there. I could do this. Even when you're down, that's the first thing a psychologist, a therapist would tell you. You're down, but look, people are telling you you're a great cook. People are
Mhm.
telling you, you're a wonderful example for sports and fitness. You know what? You really, saved that patient last week. Nobody would have recognized, that
Mhm.
WSP or whatever, we do. It's think about it, how much
Mhm.
recognition you get.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I appreciate and you sharing that so much. I think for our listeners, it's so empowering to hear that from you as well. And I will say, while we talk about recognition, I sincerely and truly appreciate, all the hard work you've put in for you, and more importantly for us, the impact it's had on all the trainees in the medical community, in like our specialty, especially like all the amazing books on medicine, and on non-medicine books like happiness. And then you've not only impacted me, what I'm learning from you, I'm able to pass along. So your impact, just the ripple effect. So thank you for doing that hard work. No, for real, and this is a moment of recognition. And I
Yeah,
love that you said, when you praise your residents, that you praise too much. But I think it's like a child, right? When you think about kids learning to walk the first time or doing any small things, you're like, oh, good job, great job. You cheer them up. And that's when they're like, oh, I can do this. Somewhere along the way, as we become adults, we think we don't need that. We think, oh, you don't need to say it to another adult. They're an adult. You think you need to say it to kids. But that's not true. Adults need to hear that too. We all have a light in us, and when someone recognizes that light, that's the compliment or the recognition. Guess what that does? it amplifies the light. You shine brighter. You feel appreciated. And what happens when you feel appreciated? You work harder. You want to do more. It perpetuates a beautiful cycle. Exactly to your point. When you recognize, you want to do more. In a relationship too, when your partner says something that makes you feel appreciated, like you putting your child to sleep, now all of a sudden you're even more motivated to do it. You're like, bedtime, I got it.
Absolutely. And it goes back to small things like, if so I made pasta, and there were a couple of MFMs over for dinner last night, and my wife saying it's so good and my friend saying it's so good, that motivates it. I'm not My wife cooks more than me, but I do like it. That empowers me to do it more, and the same thing with empty the dishwasher or if washing dishes. If people recognize you, because if people begin to tell you, the dishes are not put in well in the dishwasher,
Yeah.
you missed the stand or something, and that's routine. The same thing, like your work, or you forgot to do this or that, and they're always negative. You're gonna, even the stuff you do well, you're gonna.
Yeah, you don't feel motivated because you're going to feel like it's I'm never good enough. But yeah, bring out the best in people by telling them what they do well, you
Yeah,
know. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And I think I have a couple slides about that. And this I just wanted you to say, like whatever you're doing, let what you love drive your recognition. Like don't focus on like the outcome of like I want to be recognized, so I'm going to do all the things to get that,
right.
right? Like go with like this is what I love doing, and let people see that light within you, because then you will be happier because you are going to be walking towards that recognition in alignment with your values and your things you enjoy doing. And then again, gratitude, that's why we always start our sessions with gratitude. I think this is the easiest and most powerful tool you have to be happy immediately. At the end of the day, pat yourself on the back, ask yourself, what did I do well today? What did I learn today? And like I love that you do that with your wife. You kind of share, sit down for your coffee, you talk about things. That's a good chance to share like, hey, what went well today? What was the highlight of your day? And just be grateful for those little things. And I think on that slide one, yeah, genuine compliment and praise. We already touched on that. Surround yourself with people that make you happy, but and also be the person to uplift others, right? Like when you give people gratitude, specific compliment or praise, and when people give that back to you, accept it. It's okay to accept that. Like how you said your residents tell you like, oh, Dr. Regula, you're just saying that. Because in medicine, we're taught to feel like, oh, when people are saying something nice to us, yeah, maybe they're just saying it like that. No, that moment you've taken that pat off. And that is a disrespect to yourself and to the person giving you the respect, giving you the recognition. To the most beautiful way to respect that interaction is to humbly accept it and say, I appreciate that. I appreciate you seeing that in me. Thank you. And allow yourself to know you deserved that compliment. You did something to deserve that. And if you surround yourself with good and genuine people, when they give you those compliments, you will know it's true. That's the thing. If it's coming from a good person, you know that this person means what they're saying. They're not just saying it just to say it. And I love this, this practice about when you want to, say thank you to someone too. That is an opportunity. We say thank you a million times a day. I think, it's just part of our culture. Anyone gives you something, oh, thank you. Oh, thank you, but try adding something to it to make it more meaningful. Add a specific thing to the thank you, right? And in that moment, you've not only thanked them, you've somehow complimented them. So if I say thank you, like just now, I told you, Dr. Bagla, thank you for putting in the effort and the time and writing those books that you've done and working so hard, because you've made a huge difference for all of us as young doctors and trainees in the medical community, by inspiring us, by showing us what's possible, by empowering us, by letting us learn from the wealth of knowledge you've learned. In that moment, I've given you recognition for what you do. I've been able to thank you, and I feel good too. I think just being able to be the one to be specific. I'm currently not in a situation where I'm, in a hospital setting with my work right now, but this is one thing I've always wanted to do, and I think it's such a great idea. When, at hospitals, you sit down for sign out every morning, all the residents, fellows, attendings, and, different institutions might have their own way. At the end of sign out, maybe start the morning with everyone turn to the person sitting next to you, turn to the person on the right, and thank them for something and be specific. Could be the most random thing. Thank you, you got me that piece of chocolate 2 weeks ago. You know, no, really. And when you start doing that, I think it will create a culture where every morning people actually look forward to, oh, what am I going to hear today? Or, what nice thing. And one nice thing, you start thinking about, like, what nice thing can I share to another person? You put your mind into the state of receiving and giving from a loving place. And I think that just fosters a culture of love amongst, everybody. And I love this, be the one to change the temperature of the room. A lot of times when you're in an environment where it might be toxic or draining or something. I don't know if you've heard about this, that the 1 in 60 rule, Dr. Bergella, where, they talk about it in aviation, because, there are lots of papers out there that compare aviation and medicine, because the perfection, the level of, you know, exact precision that's required in both fields are very similar. That if a plane goes 1 degree off, it will land 60 miles off where it needs to be, just one small degree. That is just to show that the smallest act, the smallest step can create a huge ripple effect. So you can do that, can be you. You can be that 1 degree shift to make a huge difference wherever you are. We learned this in the leadership conference with the opening statement, right? Lead from where you are. You don't have to be sitting in a big chair with a big title to make a positive change, right? You start with the little things every day and pay it forward. Yeah.
One thing I want to emphasize is the negativity part, because we're talking about recognition. And, if you're an environment, and this is really true for home or work, actually work or play, which is what we do at
Yeah.
our job, it's it's hard to be in a negative environment, and sometimes, unfortunately, you need to get out,
Mhm.
either from that not good home environment or not good play environment, where you get your check from, because you need the recognition, you need the positivity, you
Yeah.
need people to express that to you. So I would say 99.9% of the time, all you need is a colleague who actually recognizes you. It doesn't have to be your boss, doesn't have to be the people under you, whatever. It can be, it's nice to have a friend at work who says, you know what, great diagnosis, so nice with that patient. It's nice to have you. Thank you for switching call, whatever it is. Um, and there is a lot of science that, you're happier if your boss is the person we were kind of describing, somebody who's able to recognize what you do well. You're not going to do everything well, but the few things or many things you do well, they should be recognized. And it's important you work in a place that gives you that back.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you mentioned earlier that you are, you love everyone on your team. You feel like you have the best team. I'm sure every team member of yours feels exactly the same way. I would have loved to be at your team, like anybody would want to be on your team. And I think it really comes down to you've created such a culture of happiness in your workplace. And I think the leader does have a huge impact.
Yeah.
When you are the leader and you model that behavior, suddenly you've uplifted the whole team to do the same. And I think that is something you do so beautifully, and I just
And it's
wanted.
not me, Kavita. It's scientifically proven. Like, in a way, I'm selfish for doing that, because if I get and the moment I can tell somebody is not happy, I call them in the office, or I go for a walk with them, in Washington Square, 2 blocks from here. Beautiful
Yeah.
trees and grass and nice environment, mostly sunny in Philadelphia every day, and work at it. Try to get off the 1 degree and back
Yeah.
into the directions of recognitions and praise.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Yeah. And again, we've kind of gone over this a little bit already, just when you're doing anything, there are lots of different stages. But I think, maybe we're almost running out of time. We can wrap up and maybe talk about this next time. What do you think, Dr. Bergella?
Yeah. Sounds great. Sounds
Yeah.
great. We were going to keep it to about an hour. I'm glad we covered what we covered today. Which again, it's when you find some passion of yours, at home and work, and the passion, could be again gardening or discovering something in a desert, or going on a trip, but doing it with passion and with your old self, and working hard at it. We also talked about making sure you take your vacation, you take the time off, and balance the working hard with something that makes you hold and live an harmonious life. And then we just touched on recognition, which I think is a beautiful thing, Kavita, to finish with.
Mhm.
Being able to thank each other. We'll talk in a session or two about love,
Mhm.
and unless you empower the other one next to you at work or at home to live the life they want to live, and once they get to their little goals, tell them you've done a good job. That it's really one of the keys. What are your last thoughts about all this?
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think I'd wrap it up by saying, my one of my favorite personal quotes also is be love, be light. Be the love, especially this is the month of love, right? Valentine's Day, when you're celebrating, don't just celebrate the day.
True.
Celebrate the true essence of being a loving person to those around you. Spread your love, spread your light, be the person who lights other people's candles by bringing out the best in them when you see someone doing something wonderful today. Maybe at least put it on your to-do list today. Go help uplift three people and make someone's day better, and see how that light makes your light shine even brighter. So no, thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful last point. So we'll see you in about a couple of weeks on February 23rd at 8 a.m. Eastern. We'll do Happiness 5. Uh, we there's a lot to cover in this scientific path to happiness, and we look forward to seeing you then. Kavita, have a wonderful day. Thanks for
Likewise.
joining.
No, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.